So in the previous video, we introduced the adhesive shapes package, which allows you to start working with different shapes classes. And the reason we gave you these shapes classes to work with is that each one of them provides an example of a constructor and a way to use different constructors to construct shapes. But I want to now connect this concept back to some things that you've been doing already in this class because you've already been using constructors. So the first constructor that you used was when you wanted to create a scanner, and you said, okay, scanner scan equals new scanner, and you passed in system.in. Here, when you write new scanner and then put parentheses and pass in system.in, this is calling the constructor for a scanner. And the parameter that you pass in is system.in. In fact, anytime that you use the new keyword, what follows is going to be a constructor. So another example would be when you create a string and you set it equal to new string and then you pass in some characters. This here, new string and then parentheses, and then the parameter is the string that you pass in, is also an example of calling a constructor. This is just the string constructor. So every class has to have a constructor, and some classes can have multiple constructors. So now I want to take a quick look at the API, which is the documentation of the shapes class, so I can show you a little bit more of the ways that we've used constructors in those classes. This is the shapes documentation for the adhesive shapes classes. So you can see here we have 3 different classes that come with this package. You have circles, rectangles, and regular polygons. Now, a lot of this stuff is going to look unfamiliar at this point, but I promise by the end of this class you will understand all of the different pieces that are documented here. For now, I just want to focus on the constructors. This section gives us a summary of the constructors, and you can see that we have 2 of them for a circle. The first constructor has no parameters. It's just circle and then empty parentheses. And this creates a circle with a radius of 1.0. That's sort of the default. And then the second constructor has, you can pass in a double, and this would create a circle with the specified radius. So you see here that we have 2 different constructors for the circle class. All of the other classes also have their own types of constructors. So we can look at rectangles, which actually has 3 constructors, regular polygons, which have 4 constructors. And in the next video, we're going to go through and demonstrate how to use each of these different shapes so that you can get familiar with how these constructors would be called in your code. But at this point, I just wanted to introduce the API because this documentation is going to be something that you as a new budding Java programmer will want to become familiar with, because this is the way that Java programmers share information with each other, or they share code, by providing documentation so that someone who picks up your code can look at it and be able to work with it. Now, some people call it documentation. The more technical term is going to be API, or Application Programming Interface, but for our purposes, you can just think of this as the documentation.